I don't think it's a secret nor controversial to state that Call of Duty Infinite Warfare is one of my all time favorite campaigns. The characters and the lore, the story was incredibly good. And the world of Infinite Warfare is filled with so much history, and it was never given the chance to be explored further with future installments. And so I think one of the most intriguing things about the game is finding out more of the world that it takes place in. And so today we're taking a look at the Secession Wars, which was a conflict that occurred 30 years before the beginning of Infinite Warfare's main plot. Throughout the game, we hear little tidbits of the Secession Wars, and there's even a book that details the events. However, we don't have full access to that book, so we only can put a few things together. Now, the settlement defense front's origins began during the gold rush of planetary colonization. Colonists began leaving Earth and settled to mine minerals on Mars as they looked for a new beginning. The settlement defense front was initially created as a way of enforcing martial law on off-world colonies. However, as time passed, the SDF would become radicalized and go rogue. They would create a strike and refuse to ship cargo to Earth. This happened due to the fact that many of the colonizers on Mars felt they were entitled to the solar system due to the harsh realities that they faced living on Mars, and how they were more exposed to the brutalities of the solar system, while Earth was just living off of their hard work and their risk. When this happened, Earth sent troops to apply pressure on the SDF. However, this would turn into a much bigger conflict when a young soldier from Earth accidentally fired a shot and killed an SDF supporter. This event was known as the shot heard round the solar system, as it was directly responsible for inciting a rebellion against the Earth-led government of Mars, with the Mars massacre occurring in retaliation from the SDF. The shot heard around the solar system and the Mars massacre would lead to the start of the Secession Wars in 2157, where the SDF would wage war against Earth's authority. The conflict spread out through the rest of the solar system and led to most planets being captured by the SDF. After many lives lost and a war that lasted a very long time, a stalemate was eventually reached, and this led to a peace treaty being signed named the Cheron Accords, which established the settlement defense front as an independent state, separate from Earth, and allowed the SDF to rule over Mars and other territories. Although the war ended in a stalemate, Earth saw this as a defeat, and so they went on to create the United Nations Space Alliance, or the UNSA. Its purpose was to control and monitor off-world colonies in order to obtain resources so they could maintain Earth's geoengineered atmosphere, which was necessary due to resource shortages and climate change that had occurred on Earth throughout the years. Now, again, this was needed because of the loss of Mars and other moons in the solar system to the SDF. Basically, Earth lost many territories that they used for their survival. In the years following the Secession Wars, tensions would remain somewhat high between Earth and Mars SDF. However, they would continue to trade and keep things as amicable as possible, as Mars needed weapons and technology, and Earth needed energy and resources, so it was a give and a take. What Earth didn't know was that the SDF was quietly building up their military, and the SDF began to build a negative reputation across the solar system, with human rights violations, border scrimmages, and expansionist overtures, which caused the Cheron Accords to deteriorate over time. And eventually this would lead to several countries implementing a trade sanction on Mars, which got the ire of the SDF, who viewed this as an attack on them and their power. This led to the Cheron Accords being completely broken when the SDF launched an all-out attack on Earth in 2187, 30 years after the Secession Wars. This led to a brand new war titled the UNSA SDF War. Now that is all I got for you guys today, and although we don't have too much information on the Secession Wars. What we do have paints a clearer picture on how the SDF was formed, why the UNSA was formed, and what the conflict was. Because when you enter the game and you begin playing it, you know that there's a history there. You know that something happened. You know that the Succession Wars were this big thing that occurred 30 years ago. And as the player character, you're curious to understand more of it. As the player character, you're thinking, well, why did it happen? How did it happen? What was the cause of it? Why does the SDF hate Earth so much? Why are they engaged in this battle? This kind of answers some of those questions. It kind of shows you the origins of a lot of the characters that you meet, a lot of the organizations that you meet, and it paints a clear picture as to why there's already a deep hatred between Earth and Mars. And so I really like that. And I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into that specific topic. And I know that Call of Duty Infinite Warfare is years and years old now, and we will probably never get a continuation of the story, a continuation of the world. And it's really sad because the lore that was built up in the game, how much history it had, was, I think, one of the best in a Call of Duty campaign. I mean, it feels like a completely different game. Like if you were to remove Call of Duty from the title, it could just stand alone as its own space exploration type of game. I mean, it's really a fantastic game that I really much loved. And I've had this Secession Wars deep dive or explanation on my to-do list for freaking months, and I just now was able to get to it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it makes a little bit more sense. And if there's anything I miss or anything that needs to be added, like always, please let me know down in the comments below.